HCA lowers healthcare premiums in the way that removing an engine from a car will lower the selling price. It's like, well, yeah, it's a lot cheaper. Not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
You know, and it's it leads me to believe that Republicans see the main purpose of healthcare companies as not being to provide healthcare to people, but to provide cushy salaries and multiple houses to healthcare executives. But even the people who, and I was talking about the 30% that are never going to change, even the people who support Trump, do or die, who were the types to say, well, don't touch my health care, but get rid of Obamacare. It's like, well, the same thing. They may not come around to seeing how disastrous the Trump administration is going to be. But I think a lot of Republican politicians are going to come around and realize that they will be unelectable if they keep backing this horse.
I certainly hope so. I really, I like your optimism.
Me too.
To me, Trump is a bully through and through, like literally a bully.
Well, we saw that was it at the NATO conference or at the G7 where he pushed the NATO conference,
right?
Where he pushed the Prime Minister of Montenegro out of the way so he could be in front for a photo op.
Yeah. That was so upsetting.
But it wasn't, because I mean.
Well, it wasn't surprising, I would
say,
but it still bothered me. You know what I really hated is the little gesture he made after. I don't know if you watched it after.
Oh, where he like adjusted his jacket.
Yeah, like it was very like Rodney Dangerfield or something.
Right.
It was I hated that. Like he knew that what he did was wrong and was trying to look sort of casual, kind of trying to blend in.
Aren't I cool? I pushed a nerd.
Yeah, well, yeah. But anyway, just getting back for a second to that, like. That sense of bullying makes me think that a lot of these Republican Congress people are quite literally scared of him. Some of them came out and denounced him after the Access Hollywood tape, and then within like 48 hours they went back to re-endorsing him, and it just makes me think he's got some kind of weird grip, where they are quite literally scared of him.
I think Mitch McConnell has some weird grip on them too, and that he's got some kind. I don't know. Maybe he's got something. He's connected to Russia. He's strong arming people. I mean, I think it's a very. I agree with you.
Well, and McConnell owes a huge debt to Trump.
Absolutely.
Because Trump gave his wife a job, Elaine Chao, the Secretary of Transportation. So. He's just, by proximity, he's dirty.
Yeah.
And that's something that we had talked about on the show previously, that it's been a crazy week, so I haven't had time to look this up. But, we were talking last week on the show, in a perfect world or an ideal world or a just world, I would settle for any of the three in this case. But let's say that, collusion with the Russian government is proven, and Trump is drummed out of office. Now, obviously, there's the line of succession, whether Pence gets to stick around or whether he gets drummed out as well for being at worst a willing participant and at best an ignorant idealist who's unsuited for the job. But what happens with other, the appointment of Jeff Sessions and other, you can't really say laws that have been passed because thank God Congress hasn't. Yeah, the appointment of Neil Gorsuch.
Yeah.
What happens? How do we get these seen as illegitimate appointments, and to restore faith in government, get these people out?
Do-over.
Yeah, can we do that?
Yeah.
It's like that Simpsons episode where they trash the town and just move the whole thing up the road. I'm convinced that's why, the only science that Trump is interested in advancing is the exploration of Mars. Get those rich people colonies built up there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I have seen on social media, like here and there, calls for a new election. I mean, I don't think there's any world where that could possibly happen, even if he's impeached. I don't see that happening. But we know that there were so many factors that affected this election. So many, outside influence. So
Yeah.
frightening.
yeah.
Very.
Oh, America, where to go? Well, that does sort of segue into our next topic, because it is Memorial Day weekend, and so on behalf of the show, want to give a shout out to the families of all the vets who gave their lives. And even though it's Memorial Day is about the ones who did give their lives, just a salute to the vets who. I know you got Veterans Day, and we'll salute you then. But for putting it on the line and making, accepting the possibility that you would be honored on Memorial Day. So thanks to you guys, and for providing the freedoms that allow us to do a show called Let's Be Treasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I love this country, but one of the things, we were just talking about Trump pushing the prime minister of Montenegro, and on his whirlwind world tour of offense this week, I get an idea was they all thought Obama went on an apology tour right after he was elected, so Trump had to get out there and reoffend everybody. But there was a lot of talk at the beginning of the week about visiting the 3 big holy sites and countries of sorts. And then the week wrapped up with the G7, the NATO summit, and the G7 summit. The G7 summit ended with people basically coming to some agreements on trade, split on climate change, and everyone agreeing that Trump is an asshole. So in that way, it's good that he's bringing the world together. But his budget came out this week, and one of the things that happened at the NATO summit was Trump railed on all the countries for not paying their dues.
While the leaders of other countries visibly snickered and giggled and looked at each other and rolled their eyes while he spoke. That was real encouraging.
It reminded me of like we're all comedians from Jewish families. The worst part of every holiday dinner, when someone's kids want to give a presentation. Oh boy, you have our undivided attention. And if you look around the table next Thanksgiving and look at everybody's faces while the kids are performing, except for their parents, and that is the look that you saw on the faces of the rest of the world's leaders. But Trump released his budget this week, which saw huge increases to military spending, while decimating social programs and health programs and education. So it is Memorial Day weekend, and in a roundabout way, this whole introduction of the topic has been getting to the question, what are we actually doing for our vets besides making more of them? Because the Trump budget, which admittedly this, still has to go through Congress, where things only become better. But it decimates care for veterans, while ensuring that we will be making a lot more veterans.
Yeah.
Except for the ones who are fortunate enough to die in war.
Whoa.
Well, in the case, in the case that anything resembling Trump's budget passes,
Well, absolutely.
it might dying in battle might be the better option.
Well, and I also, just the fact that, if education, there was that, there's no, it's the only option for so many people, to go into the armed forces, it's really honest. obviously we're grateful, we're celebrating this, and these people died for our country. But, most people who go into the military these days are doing so because they don't have any other economic options. And that's the kind of, society we live in right now. I mean, we are creating, yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We can look forward to many more people entering the military based on economic necessity.
Yeah, who needs a draft when
That's right.
When you've got a bunch of poor people that
can't afford college,
need to serve if they want to have any sort of living.
Yep.
Wasn't a huge cornerstone of his platform when he was running increasing health care for veterans? I seem to remember that he talked about it and railed against
the shoddy care that vets were getting under Obama. Yeah. Well, I think, like peace in the Middle East, like health care, like pretty much everything else, we are eventually going to have the statement from Trump, well, taking care of the veterans is a lot harder than I thought it would be.
Right.
Yeah.
That was one of the things on the European trip this week. One of Trump didn't have any press conferences, as opposed to every president before, and one of the excuses that came from his mouthpieces was that his schedule is just so full, he doesn't have time to talk to the press. And the things they listed, healthcare, Russia, all the stuff that a president does. It's like the old Chris Rock line about, I take care of my kids. Well, you're supposed to take care of your kids,
right?
And you're the president. This is all shit that you're supposed to do. Yeah. And one of the other things you're supposed to do that he just doesn't have the time for is having some level of transparency. Letting the American people know what's going on. I still don't think Trump has gotten it through his head that he works for us. He's not the boss of America.
I get through his head, though. I think he is he as somebody once said somewhere, he's a malignant narcissist.
Absolutely.
So I don't think it's even. I don't necessarily even think there's any kind of cognitive, process there. I think it's simply, I'm the boss of me and I will be accountable to no one. That's his thing. Speaking of the European tour, though, I have to say, did anyone else hear the price of Melania's jacket that she wore in Italy? It was $50,000, Dolce & Gabbana.
I'm no fashionista, as anyone who's ever seen me would. I know, really.
I'm shocked, David.
It comes as a surprise to many, but I'm sorry, $50,000 for that?
I know.
Like, it was.
No, let them eat cake. It's
well, but
like
also
that.
And whereas I certainly couldn't understand paying $50,000 for any jacket unless it was made of more than $50,000 bills, at which point, it pays for itself, I guess. But oh my God, that thing was so fucking ugly. And this is why I say I'm not a fashionista. Like, I don't know. There could be some sort of fashion significance to the garment, but it looked. And God, this episode is the one where I am revealed to hate children, I guess, because I had my Thanksgiving spiel, and now my next tirade against children. There's like art projects where kids make the paper flowers and then all paste them all to a wall, like. That is what this looked like.
Yeah.
What is she?
I didn't see this jacket. It wasn't the maroon leather.
No. He's right. It exactly looked like that. It was like those tissue.
Pull
flowers.
it up on your phone. I mean,
tissue flower. Yeah.
It just like that. Looking at that jacket and hearing the price tag, it's like, this is great, because if anyone else buys this jacket, the designers are next going to come out with a $25,000 macaroni necklace.
Oh God!
You see?
$51,000.
Wow.
Oh wow, that's
right.
That's super ugly.
I know.
Yeah, it looks like she fell down in a floral shop or something. She's just covered.
She was coated, right?
Gross.
cover yourself in glue and roll around in
That's
these
right.
tissue flowers.
That's
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It just, I mean, like, wow.
Yeah.
However, big props to Melania for slapping Donald's hand away.
Yes.
I
Yes.
was delighted how much coverage that got.